friends, welcome to Awdhesh Academy. Friends, we are learning about the thoughts of Indian thinkers, philosophers and saints. Today we are going to learn about Raja Rammohan Roy. Raja Rammohan Roy is considered to be one of the greatest reformer of the modern time. In fact, some people call him even the maker of the modern India, because whatever modern value we see today in India, many of that started at the time of Raja Rammohan Roy. He was born in 1772 in the district Hooghly of West Bengal. He was a great religious, social and educational reformer. Now let us understand his contribution to the modern India. He established Brahmo Sabha in 1828 with Dwarkanath Tagore. He tried to revive the Vedanta philosophy of Upanishads. There are many methods of following the Hinduism in India. Most popular ones come from Purana. Now the Puranas are basically the stories of different types, like you have the stories of Ramcharitmanas or Ram or Krishna or Lord Shiva, and so many stories are there. The basic purpose of the stories of Purana was to explain the complex philosophy of Ved and Upanishad in a simple language to the common people. But actually the matter was so much simplified and the stories has gone to that extent that many times the messages which were given in the story were diametrically opposite to the messages which were there in the original scriptures of Vedas and Vedanta or Upanishad. And because of these distortions, so many evil practices started in our country. So he was the person who tried to interpret the scriptures in originality. So he studied the Veda and the Vedanta, that means Upanishad, and tried to teach the original message rather than the message which is conveyed through the stories which has been often distorted and concocted. He preached about the unity of God. God is one, and not only the God of Hindus, because Hindus themselves have so many gods, supposed to be 330 million gods. But he preached the unity of all gods of all religion, and he believed that there is only one God, whether we call him Ram or Krishna or Vishnu or we call him Jesus Christ or whatever name we give. So all gods are one. He talked about the unity of God. He translated the Vedic scriptures into English. Translation to English has also made it accessible to the English speaking population and the Britishers who could appreciate the beauty of Vedas. He also founded Brahmo Samaj and Calcutta Utilitarian Society. He fought against many superstitious practices, for example, Sati Pratha, caste systems, polygamy, and also the child marriage. These practices were very much prevalent in his times, and those were accepted by a large section of the society. So you can imagine the type of courage you require to fight against those evils 250 years ago. He wanted to create a fair and just society where everybody is treated equally, and in this respect he has greatly implemented some of the good practices of Christianity, which has given a lot of value to the service of the humanity. One of his greatest contribution has been the fight against Sati Pratha. In the olden time, it was quite common that when the husband used to die, the woman used to commit sati. That means they used to burn themselves in the funeral pyre of the husband. This was a very, very brutal practice. And he has experienced this in his own family. When his elder brother died, the widow of his elder brother committed sati. Young Raja Rammohan Roy tried to stop that practice. He tried his best, but he could not stop that. That has made a great impact on his thought, on his spirit. He was determined to remove this practice from India. He used to often visit the Shamshan Ghat or the crematorium places and see that this practice is not taking place. He will try to persuade the people not to do it. And finally, with the help of William Bentinck, he was able to get a law passed against Sati Pratha. So he has made a great contribution in reforming the Hindu religion and getting rid of some of the evil practices which were prevalent during his time. He worked in East India Company. He was basically a clerk or a munsi in the East India Company. He worked with the Thomas Woodruff. He was a registrar of appellate court in Murshidabad. He estimated that almost half of the wealth of India is actually going to British or Britain. And he has given that theory, drain of wealth theory, that British rule is actually draining the wealth of India. And this theory was later exploited or used by the Indian freedom fighters. Raja Rammohan Roy is known for a lot of religious reforms. He has actually cleaned the Hindu religion to a lot of its evil. First of all, he preached that there is only one supreme God. And then he said that you can pray God at any place. There is no specified place where you have to go. You can pray God from your home. You don't have to travel long distance to a particular temple to pray God. And he said that the prayer should be coming from your heart. You need not to invoke any individual for that. God means God, no specific God. And idol worship is something which is to be avoided because it actually distorts your thought and make you focus on one particular image or God. He was very much against the animal sacrifice, which were very prevalent in West Bengal and India in those period of time. So that was something which was totally unacceptable to him. According to him, the purpose of the religious discourses is not to actually propagate the greatness of God or repeat the old stories, but try to promote charity, morality, goodness, virtues in the society. Raja Rammohan Roy is also known for many educational and social reforms. He was perhaps one of the few leaders who demanded property inheritance right for women. Even in the modern India, for a very long time, the women were deprived of their property rights. He demanded property rights for the women. He set up the Hindu college in collaboration with David Hare. So he was in the favor of modern education. He did not want people to read only the scriptures. He also founded one Anglo-Hindu college and Vedanta college. So his purpose was to synergize the Western education and the Eastern knowledge and give a very comprehensive thought to the young generation and the youth. And he very much supported the introduction of Western education in the modern curriculum because all the scientific knowledge, the knowledge of the mathematics, most of the knowledge which is there is actually coming from the West. And if we don't have those Western knowledge, then our people will not be able to compete with the best. They will not be able to absorb the development of the modern knowledge. He supported the inclusion of English, science, medicine, and technology in the curriculum. He was a great writer and he published so many books, journals, translated so many things. For example, he published Sambat Kombadi, a Bengali weekly newspaper which covered topics like freedom of press, inclusion of Indian in the high rank of service, separation of executive and judiciary. He also published Manatul Akbar in Persian. He also translated many works of different scriptures. For example, he translated Isho Panishad, Katho Panishad, Manduk Upanishad, Percept of Jesus, Guide to Peace and Happiness, and the Universal Religion. He thus tried to see that we as an Indian get the knowledge of different scriptures so that we can learn the goodness of everything, learn the good in other things. Because as far as we are ignorant of what is there in other religions and scriptures, we will not be able to appreciate them. Let me give you some of the quotes of Raja Rammohan Roy. He once said, "The greater our intercourse with European gentlemen, the greater will be our improvement in literary, social, and political affairs." Thus, he emphasized that instead of maintaining a distance from the West, instead of avoiding them, instead of ridiculing them, instead of suspecting them, we must try to have a closer interaction with them so that we can learn the best things from the West. He also said, the superstitious practices which deform the Hindu religion have nothing to do with the pure spirit of its dictates. You see, there are many evil practices which has been created in Hindu religion, which was not there in the original scriptures, for example, Ved and Upanishad. Unfortunately, over a period of time, a lot of commentaries were written, a lot of stories were written, which actually deformed the religion, which created problem in the religion. And so he told that that was not the original intention. So we can get the best thing when we read the original scriptures and get the original meaning from those scriptures. So today we have learned about the thoughts of Raja Rammohan Roy. He is truly the maker of the modern India. The reform which started in his time is still, I must say, a work in progress, because many of the dreams which he dreamt are yet to be realized. The caste system, for example, is still so much prevalent in our country. I think we have to still learn the wisdom and the thoughts of the great thinkers like Raja Rammohan Roy and reform our country and our society even more. Thank you very much for watching the video. So today we are going to discuss about the different ideas, ethical ideas, economic ideas and spiritual ideas of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was a very unique personality of India. He was a person who was not only Indian, but also he was able to imbibe the Western thoughts and create a synergy between the East and West in his thinking process. He was influenced by all religions. He respected all religions, starting from Hinduism to Buddhism to Christianity to Jainism. There was no religion whose tenets he did not follow. He was also deeply influenced by Leo Tolstoy's book, The Kingdom of God is Within You. From this book, he has learned the basics of the non-violence movement which he has started and which he has practiced in the independence movement of India. He also learned from the book of Ruskin's Unto This Last. He translated this book into Gujarati with the title Sarvodaya. He was deeply impressed by the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, you will find that often Mahatma Gandhi is portrayed with carrying Bhagavad Gita with him. He derived greatest inspiration from Bhagavad Gita. Gopal Krishna Gokhale was his guru, his spiritual guru and also his political guru. From him he learned how to convert the spiritual knowledge and spiritual thought into pragmatic political actions. Plus, he has experimented throughout his life as a political leader and learned a lot of things from his experiments. In fact, his autobiography is named as My Experiment with Truth. So that is the level of his experimentation. So a lot of original thoughts came from his life experiences. What are the ethical ideas of Gandhiji? First is Sarvodaya. Gandhiji believed that everybody has a right to live a fulfilled, happy, successful life. And it is the responsibility of the people who are more successful in the worldly affair and the spiritual affair or in any sphere of life to take care of those underprivileged people and try to bring them into their level. Because as long as a substantial section of our society is deprived of the benefits of the modern development, then the rest of the people cannot be happy. He believed that everybody has a right to earn his livelihood and everybody's profession has to be respected. We normally give more importance to the professions which are intellectual in nature, and we consider the manual work to be something which is not as respectable. Gandhiji broke this myth. He was the person who was himself doing a lot of manual work which were generally considered to be lower level by the educated section of the society. So that is one of the very important contribution of Gandhiji, that he has given respect to every profession. Gandhiji was primarily a very spiritual person. He has deep faith in God and he derived all his strength from his practicing of religion. But his religion was not a dogmatic religion. He did not believe in rituals, as you will find that he was not the type of politician who will go to temples very frequently or who will do so many rituals, because he believed that God is within you. He believed that God is in us, in our soul, in our Atma, and that our Atma is part of God. And this Atma, which he often used to call inner voice, that guides us to the right path. Gandhiji conducted a lot of experiment and often driven by what he called inner voice, like Dandi March and many other things. He got some inspiration from inside and he followed those inspirations. He believed that God is inside and we should listen to our conscience, and that is the best method of leading the spiritual and good life. He believed that God has no form, even though he used to call Ram, Ram Ram and all the prayer he used to say. But the Ram which Gandhiji believed is not the Ram who is commonly believed. Gandhiji believed that God has no specific quality. He is Nirgun, and God has no shape, size or form, and he is Nirankar. He believed that the idols of God in the temple are basically to attract our attention toward the spiritual thoughts. And they represent the God, but they are not God in themselves. He believed that God is one and he is there in everybody. He believed that when we are worshipping God, it actually means that we should follow the laws, the spiritual laws, the tenets of religion, their lifestyle. For example, if you want to be a good Christian, follow Jesus Christ rather than remembering every word of Bible. If you want to be a true Hindu, follow the life of Ram or Krishna. That is the ideal form of being religious, not by remembering all these slokas and all these, following all these rituals. He believed that God is Sat Chit Anand. That means truth, knowledge and bliss. God is truth, God is knowledge, and God is happiness or bliss. For Gandhiji, if something was supreme, it was truth. He believed that truth is the greatest religion. We should do anything, but we should never discard truth. There is no God other than truth. While the common people say God is truth, Gandhiji believed that truth is God. So if you are leading your life in the truthful manner, in the honest manner, with integrity, you are actually worshipping God in the best possible manner. So for Gandhiji, nothing was more precious than following the path of truth, Satya. He in fact said very clearly, I am devoted to nothing but truth, and I owe no disciple to anybody but truth. That is the level of his dedication for truth. The fourth important ethical principle of Gandhiji was service to society. This principle is very, very critical and generally missing from our Indian ethos. Because we believe in the principle of karma. If somebody is suffering, we believe that because of his karma, past karma, or the karma of the previous year or previous life, he is suffering. And therefore, we should not interfere into his karma. This is a typical Indian trait. But Gandhiji did not believe that. He believed that service of man is service of God. In this respect, he followed the principle of Bible and listened to the word of Jesus Christ, who said very, very clearly, for I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of those brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. This is what God says in Bible. And Gandhiji believed very much in that. and therefore he advocated that we should serve the poorest of the poor people, because serving the poor is serving the God. Another very important principle of Gandhiji was cleanliness. And cleanliness does not mean only the physical cleanliness, cleanliness of heart also. Our Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which has started by our present government, was inspired by Gandhiji's emphasis on cleanliness. And you can find that Gandhiji's spectacles are shown as the symbol of the Swachh Bharat. But his concept of cleanliness was not limited only to the physical world, but also your heart. Your heart should also be clean and pure. This is very, very important. And how do you clean your heart? How do you clean your consciousness? It is when you remove all the evil thoughts, remove all the evil which is deposited on your heart like a dirt, like a dust. If you remove that, your heart becomes pure, and then you are able to see the world clearly. You develop compassion and love for everybody in this world. And therefore, cleanliness is a very, very important ethical idea of Gandhiji, and cleanliness includes not only physical cleanliness but also the cleanliness of heart. Another very great contribution of Gandhiji was the emphasis on means rather than end. Friends, many philosophers, including our Chanakya and Machiavelli, has taught us that end is most important. If you are achieving the right goal, the means are unimportant. And particularly these thoughts were so much prevalent in the period of Gandhiji, when the communism was so powerful. It justified killing of millions of people to achieve the great goal of social justice and equality. Gandhiji, even in those times, never accepted the importance of end over the means. He believed that end and means are one and same thing. You can never achieve good end by following bad means. And therefore, if we want to do good things in life, we should also find the right path or the good path to achieve those goals. The seventh very revolutionary idea of Gandhiji was that Gandhiji believed on the goodness of human nature. One of the very important ideas of Gandhiji is that man's nature is of goodness. In many religions, people believe, or it is even written in the religion, that man is inherently evil. His nature is inherently evil. He is a sinner, and it is by force, by punishment, that he does not do evil things. If that fear is removed, everybody will become a devil. Gandhiji did not believe in that. He believed that man's inherent nature is good. He wants to do good things in life. But forced by the different circumstances, he is doing wrong thing. If you can create the right environment, everybody can become a great person. So that is one of the very different thought of Gandhiji. He believed that violence, which is used generally, particularly in the Western world, to set the people right, to see that people don't do evil by punishing them, is not the right way of reforming the people, because he believed that violence and selflessness cannot go together. Violence is inherently selfish, and therefore if you want to create goodness, violence has to be avoided, and non-violence is the path. He believed that all human beings are reasonable and they want to accommodate other people unless they have a fear, unless they don't trust each other. The next very important ethical principle of Gandhiji was ahimsa, or non-violence. I think if Gandhiji was known for one thing all over the world, it was non-violence. Now, please remember, my friend, that non-violence was something which was not even thought in the period of Gandhi. There had already been two world wars. Violence was the means which has been used by British to rule India. The whole world was fighting with each other. There was so much of violence in his period. But still he said that ahimsa paramo dharma, or non-violence, is the best form of religion or our duty. He believed that it is the natural desire of the person to be non-violent. It is not something which has to be externally imposed on him. And we can realize God and we can acquire truth only when we are non-violent. If we follow the path of violence, we can neither achieve God or we can never get truth, because our mind is never stable when we are in the mode of violence. It's like, lake. Unless the lake is pure, unless the water is stable, you cannot see the truth or the image of the word there. In the same way, when our mind is violent, it is very, very unstable and we can never see the truth in our mind. And therefore, it is very, very important that we should not have violence. And he preached non-violence even to his enemies and virtually followed the teachings of Jesus Christ. He also said that you should hate the sin and love the sinner. That means if somebody is doing a wrong thing, it does not mean that the person has become bad. It is only the act which is bad. The next day, if the person is doing a good thing, you should forgive him, because no person becomes bad by doing a bad thing. So we have to differentiate between a sin and a sinner. Sin is an act, sinner is a person. And a person can always become a great person. Therefore, we should not hate the sinner, but only hate the sin. The moment the person reforms, we should start liking that person. We should forgive that person. And he has given a very famous quote where he said that an eye for an eye make whole world blind. That means violence is not the ultimate, method to solve the world's problem. Because if it is eye for eye, then ultimately it will end to the total destruction of the human race, and that's not going to lead you to anywhere. Now the problem is that if you don't use violence, how do you fight a battle? We have learned since time immemorial that the only thing which works in this world is the power. Now how to win your enemy, how to expel the British and get independence for India if you are not willing to fight? Gandhiji has given a wonderful path for which he is known even today. That is the path of non-cooperation. Asahyog. He advised us to become a satyagrahi, follower of the truth, insistence of the truth. What he said is that if somebody is asking you to do wrong things, follow illegal things, immoral things, don't follow it. But at the same time, don't oppose him by violence. So this is a very, very important. Non-cooperation with the wrong things, with the evil things. Don't succumb to that, even if force is applied on that. So non-cooperation was, you can say, a very, very important principle of Gandhiji. And he followed that to fight the battle against British, because if non-violence is used and non-cooperation is used, Britishers gradually realized that they are not right, and they ultimately left India and given us independence. He believed that all social, political, economic and religious problems are due to violence, and therefore fasting is one method which can be used for self-purification and at the same time to actually shake the soul of your enemies and force them to think about your point of view. So that is something which he practiced, and that delivered result also in his time. He has given certain qualities to become a satyagrahi. What are the qualities? That he said, you should harbor no anger against your enemies, against the opponents. You should suffer the anger of the opponent. So if somebody is angry, you should not retaliate. You should never retaliate to your enemies or your opponents, but at the same time, you refuse to follow the wrong orders of the government of the day. You should voluntarily submit for arrest or confiscation of your property. If somebody want to arrest you, if the government want to arrest you, you voluntarily go there. You don't resist yourself. Suffer that punishment. Don't curse or swear the enemies. Don't insult your opponent, and joyfully obey the order of the leaders of the civil disobedience. So these are the main qualities of the Satyagrahi which Gandhiji has given to us. Gandhiji also had unique economic ideas. He believed that you should earn your living through manual labor, and he himself did that. Then he used to spin his own cloths, and that made him very, very unique leader. He believed that we should actually try to reduce our wants so that we can live a simple life. Fulfill those wants, and then you are chasing wealth, power throughout your life, and that's going to make your life miserable. So the best thing is that you reduce your want, and if you reduce your want, your life will become peaceful. You don't need much money to achieve success. He rather believed that if you are rich, if you have acquired wealth anyway, then you should consider yourself to be a trustee of that wealth rather than being the owner of the wealth. And you should try to use that wealth for the benefit of all the common people who can be given that wealth for their own benefit. But nevertheless, Gandhiji was against the idea of forceful acquisition of the wealth like it was done in the communist regime, when the common people have looted all the rich people, all the kings and all that, they have even killed them. So he did not believe in forceful distribution of the wealth, but he believed that the rich people should voluntarily distribute the wealth to the poor people and should not consider themselves to be the owner of the wealth, but rather treat themselves as the trustee of the wealth. Gandhiji published the list of these 7 sins in October 1925 in the weekly paper Young India. Now, the 7 sins are as following. First is wealth without work. If you are earning something and not doing anything, it is a sin. Because when you work, you contribute to the society, and because of your work, you earn your living. Work is not a means to earn livelihood. Work is also a means to connect with the world. So if you are having wealth and you are not contributing, you are not connected with the world, you are taking from the world without giving anything to it, and that's a sin. Pleasure without conscience. We all have the right to enjoy pleasure, but at the same time, we should not do immoral things, wrong things, which is hitting our conscience, and that should not be used to enjoy our pleasure. If the pleasure is without conscience, that is a sin. Knowledge without character. In today's world, in the modern world, knowledge is tremendously available all over the world. It is available through internet, through different books, and many people today know more than what our ancestors know even in their entire life. A 15-year-old kid today perhaps have more knowledge than what our ancestors knew in their entire life. But at the same time, the knowledge is like a weapon, like a power, which is subjected to misuse, and that is what is happening. The people who are having a lot of knowledge are generally using for selfish purpose or for defending the wrong people, and thereby it is becoming a curse rather than becoming a boon. And therefore, a knowledge which is without a character is a sin. He believed that commerce without morality, if you are purely playing the market dynamics, trying to extract as much money from the customer, it is also a sin. You should have consciousness, we should have ethics, we should not charge undue profit. Science without humanity. Science has given us a lot of knowledge, a lot of technological development, but that should be used for the benefit of the society, benefit of the humanity. If you are making nuclear bombs and destroying the humanity, if you are making powerful missiles and destroying the humanity, that is again a sin. He also believed that the religion without sacrifice is useless, because the meaning of the religion is that you basically consider that God is in everybody. And when everybody has God and you don't try to give something which you have, you don't give sacrifice, then that is again something which is a sin. He also believed that politics without principle is a sin. Every politician should follow certain principles, whether he wins or loses, whether it's popular or unpopular, because if you don't have principle, then it is a sin. If you remember, Gandhiji has withdrawn the entire movement after Chauri Chaura incident because of the violence. It made him very, very unpopular, but still he stuck to the principle. He never sacrificed his principle. So friends, today we learned about the ethical ideas of Gandhiji. He is definitely one of the greatest leader, not only the political leader, but a mass leader and a spiritual leader, an intellectual leader of India. We are all proud of him. I am sure that you have understood some of the basic concepts of the ethical ideas of Gandhiji. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, today we are going to learn about Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He was our president and he was perhaps the most loved president of India in the recent times. Friends, for the UPSC point of view, I have found that after Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Kalam is the second most important person as far as the examination point of view is concerned. Maximum questions has been asked from the quotes of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So friends, today we are going to learn more about him, what are his ideas, what makes him great, and what other people think about him, and how we can use his life as a lesson to make our own life better. So friends, let's first know something about Dr. Kalam. As we know that Dr. Abdul Kalam was an aerospace scientist. He was born and raised in Rameshwaram, Tamil Nadu, and studied physics and aerospace engineering. He spent the next 4 decades as a scientist and science administrator, mainly at Defense Research and Development Organization, that is DRDO, and Indian Space Research Organization, that is ISRO. And he is known to be a great scientist, a great thinker, a great team man. He was intimately involved in India's civilian space program and military missile development effort, and he died while delivering a lecture at IIM Shillong from an apparent cardiac arrest on 27 July 2015. Friends, Dr. Kalam was an all-rounder. His personality knows no limit, and his achievements are immense. He came to be known as Missile Man of India for his work on the development of ballistic missiles and launch vehicle technology. He also played a very pivotal role in India's Pokhran-2 nuclear test, which was conducted in 1998 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji was our Prime Minister. Dr. Kalam was elected as the 11th President of India in 2002 with the support of both ruling Bharatiya Janata Party and the then opposition Indian National Congress. So he was like a consensus candidate for the president. And he was widely referred to as a people's president because he was very popular in the people. He was particularly very popular among the youth and the young people. He was also awarded Bharat Ratna, which is the highest civilian honor given to any individual. Now let's understand his personal life. Dr. Kalam achieved everything what any person can aspire in his life. He was, however, a very simple person. He was a very humble person. Dr. Kalam was noted for his integrity and a very simple lifestyle. He never married. His few possessions included his books, his veena, some articles of clothing, a CD player, and a laptop. At his death, he left no will, and his possession went to his eldest brother, who survived him. So, he never accumulated any property. Friends, we teach about simplicity. We learned about simplicity from different religions of India like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, but not many people actually practice it. And Dr. Kalam was epitome of simplicity, and he practiced simplicity in his real life. But Dr. Kalam was also a very religious and a spiritual person. Let us now understand his religious and spiritual views. Even though Dr. Kalam was a great scientist and he had scientific temper, but at the same time, he was also very religious. He was a proud and practicing Muslim who offered daily namaz and fasted during Ramadan. His father had also impressed upon the young Kalam the value of interfaith respect and dialogue. From his childhood itself, he learned about other religions, particularly Hinduism and Islam. And so, he was always in favor of creating harmony between different religions. He was convinced that his answers to India's multitudes issues basically lay in the dialogues and cooperation among the country's religious, social, political leaders. So instead of going for confrontation, instead of trying to find fault in other people's religion and beliefs, we should go for dialogue and cooperation so that we can create unity in diversity. He firmly believed that respect for other faith was one of the key cornerstone of Islam, and so he tried to learn other religion as well. And he respected the religion in his heart. Dr. Kalam was well versed with all Hindu traditions. He learned Sanskrit, he read the Bhagavad Gita, and he was a vegetarian. It is not that he only said about the respect for other religion, he actually practiced it. And as we can see that he learned Gita and he was a vegetarian. He was very fond of saying, for great men, religion is a way of making friends. The small people make religion a fighting tool. And so his words inspire us. We are seeing so much of conflict in our country in the name of religion. Dr. Kalam was a person who tried to create a synthesis between different religions. He was particularly very popular among the youth because he used to inspire youth with his energy even at his age. He once said, you have to dream before your dreams can come true. He also said, dream, dream, dream. Dreams transform into thoughts and thoughts result in action. It is due to his power of dream that from a very small and poor background in the city of Rameshwaram, he emerged as one of the greatest scientists and also the most loved president of India. He was loved by the youth in our country. He said, my message, especially to young people, is to have courage to think differently, courage to invent, to travel the unexplored path, courage to discover the impossible and to conquer the problems and succeed. These are great qualities that they must work towards. This is my message to the young people. And not only he preached, he actually followed. And that was the reason that he was so popular among the youth. He has exhorted the youth that to succeed in your mission, you must have a single-minded devotion to your goal. So as a youth, people have different type of aspirations and they are unable to focus on one single goal. But unless you are able to focus on one single goal, you won't achieve success. And when we are scared of the difficulties, when we are scared of the failure, Dr. Kalam told us that man needs his difficulties because they are necessary to enjoy success. Without difficulties, without challenges in life, we cannot achieve success. And this is the message of Dr. Kalam. Dr. Kalam was loved by one and all, irrespective of the party affiliation. Dr. Shashi Tharoor once said, Kalam was a complete Indian, an embodiment of the eclecticism of India's heritage of diversity. Yes, Dr. Kalam was indeed a very unique personality, and he actually embodied what is India, because in him you can find all traditions, culture, and the unity of all of them. Even L.K. Advani, our earlier Deputy Prime Minister, said, Kalam was the best exemplar of the idea of India, one who has embodied the best of all the cultural and spiritual traditions that signify India's unity in immense diversity. So friends, Dr. Kalam was a great personality and he has taught us great lessons. He has taught us to dream and he has taught us to not fight on the basis of religion or any other differences of opinion, rather try to go for the path of dialogue, learn from each other, and that is truly the spirit of India. So friends, I hope that you got the good understanding about Dr. Kalam's life and his thoughts. Thank you very much for watching this lesson. Friends, today we are going to learn about Savitribai Phul, who is considered to be the first woman teacher in India, one of the greatest social reformer, one of the leaders, and she was one of the most prominent woman figure in the 19th century. She was born on 3rd January 1831 and she died on 10th March 1897. She was a great philanthropist, educationalist, and prolific Marathi writer. And we have to understand that she was born 190 years ago. In those times, the women never used to go to schools. Education was not for women. And just like other women, she was illiterate at the time of marriage. but she got educated with the help of her husband. She completed the teacher's training course, started a school for girls, and became the first qualified woman teacher in India in 1848. And that was her distinction. Now, during those times, the education of girls were thought to be something very bad, and she had to face tremendous harassment from conservative elements who found the idea of women's education repugnant and against culture. Because in those days, it was believed that the woman's job is to take care of the family, to bear children, to take care of husband. And in that time, she became a teacher. And not only she became a teacher, but she opened a school for girls. And that was very, very bold measure. Despite all the social problems, she boldly continued her work and motivated other women to become educated and empowered. Now let's understand her contribution for India. She played an important and vital role in improving women's rights in India. As we know that she was the first woman teacher, and only by education the lot of women can be changed, and she played a very important role in that. She worked to abolish the discrimination and unfair treatment of people based on caste and gender. Not only in matter of gender, but even in the matter of caste, she was very prominent and sought to remove the discrimination. She went on to establish a shelter in 1864 for the destitute women, and she played a very crucial role in grooming Jyotira Phule, who was her husband, pioneer institution that was Satya Sodhak Samaj, which was established in 1873, that fought for the equality of all the classes. So she was the strength for her husband, and she contributed to his own mission. She is regarded as an important figure of the social reform movement in Maharashtra. Now, because of her work, she has been given a great recognition. In recognition of her contribution in 2015, Pune University was renamed as Savitribai Phul Pune University. She is also regarded as the mother of Indian feminism, and the nation celebrated 190th birth anniversary on 3rd January 2020. And her birth date, that is 3rd January, is also marked as Mahila Shikshan Din, that is Women's Education Day. So friends, she was a very, very prominent figure, and she was a revolutionary because it was unthinkable almost 200 years ago for the women's education, and it was due to her effort that over a period of time the women started getting education, and today the education level of women is at par with men, and we have to thank her for her courageous steps which she took 190 years ago. Let us now talk about some of her quotes. The lack of learning is nothing but gross bestiality. It is through the acquisition of knowledge that he loses his lower status and achieves the higher one. Now, in this particular quotation, he says that as far as a human being is concerned, if we don't study, if we don't acquire knowledge, then we remain an animal, a beast. And that is why learning is very, very important for all human beings. My husband is a godlike man. He is beyond comparison in this world. Nobody can equal him. And that shows her devotion and gratitude for her husband. We shall overcome and success will be ours in the future. The future belongs to us. And that was her prediction, which is coming out true 200 years after her birth. That the woman will be the future of the country. And today we see that the women are excelling in all dimensions of life, and she has predicted that in her lifetime. So friends, today we learned about Savitribai Phule, one of the most prominent scholar as well as feminist as well as the social reformer, and I hope that you got a good knowledge about her and you can write the answers in your own words. Thank you very much.